Let's get talking now today. As the Russian invasion of Ukraine continues to gain attention from both local and international communities, the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, a Lagos-based economic think tank, have disclosed that the ongoing conflict, if it gets protracted, will have a profound and multidimensional implication on the Nigerian economy. CPP's Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Muda Yusuf, in a statement, highlighted the economic implications of the ongoing conflict, where he explains that the crisis will also have a significant macroeconomic outcome, which includes heightened fiscal deficit, growing debt levels, spikes in payments, money supply growth, exchange rate depreciation, and more intense inflationary pressures, debt service payments on the outlook on the economy, country's economy. However, on the flip side, the group also noted that there is a positive investment effect on companies in the upstream segment of the oil and gas sector, as there is a positive correlation between crude oil prices and returns on investments. Now, joining me via Skype to look at the economic implications of the Russia-Ukraine war, of course, on the domestic and global economy, is the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, CPPE, Dr. Muda Yusuf. He's also the immediate past DG of the LCCI. Thank you so much, Dr. Yusuf, for your time.
Thank you very much, Tolu. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, sir. Now, our first is in this report, in this statement, you started by saying that this will be profound and multidimensional. That's especially for the implication for Nigeria's economy. Can you explain better what you mean by this?
Yes, thank you very much. We stated that it will be profound because the Nigerian economy is very vulnerable to this kind of shocks. Other oil-producing countries are smiling at this time, although it's not a good thing to smile when people are suffering, as we are seeing in Ukraine. But from a business point of view, or from an economic point of view, this is a good time for oil-producing countries, because they are likely to now begin to reap some windfall from oil production. But unfortunately, the reverse is the case in Nigeria for two reasons. One, we depend almost entirely on importation of petroleum products to meet our needs because our refineries have collapsed. We don't have any significant private sector investments in refineries, except of course for those upcoming like the Dangote refinery and the rest. But up until now, and that itself is a sad commentary on our growth as a nation and even the trajectory of our oil and gas sector. We have been in oil business for close to 60 years, and yet we don't have functioning refineries as we speak. So it makes us very, very vulnerable. So the limited advantage we'll have earned from the increase in crude oil price is flowing out almost in the same proportion, because we are also importing heavily petroleum products. And there's a very strong correlation between crude oil price and the price of petroleum products. So whatever we have gained in increase in crude oil price, we lose through the importation of petroleum products. So that is one reason why we are very vulnerable. Secondly, apart from the heavy bill that we pay on the importation of petroleum products, there's also the subsidy element in it, because the landing cost continues to widen, especially now that oil price has crossed the $100 per barrel mark. Before the onslaught of Russia on Ukraine, we were talking about 3 trillion in terms of subsidy budget. That is still in the National Assembly. It has not been properly even deliberated upon. While we are dealing with that, oil price now had gone beyond $100 per barrel. So the implication is that even the subsidy budget, as disturbing as the 3 trillion was, is likely to even go higher. So that has a lot of fiscal implication. I'm talking of implication on the finances of government. It has implications for deficit. It has implications for borrowing. It has implications for debt service. And it has implications for inflation. Now, in terms of domestic cost and domestic inflation, this development is also going to have a major impact on energy prices, both domestically and globally. And already we are beginning to feel the heat. Now, Russia is the second largest producer of oil. In fact, it's even ahead of Saudi Arabia. So when you have such a major producer that is bringing to the market about 10 million barrels per day involved in this kind of conflict, there is no way to not affect supply. And once supply is disrupted, it will affect price. And that is why today we are talking about oil price of over about $106 per barrel. So this has implications for the component of petroleum products that have already been deregulated. I'm talking here of diesel and aviation fuel and kerosene, and to some extent even gas. So to the extent that oil prices are going up, to the extent that these components of petroleum products have been deregulated, to the extent that we are not refining locally, we are going to take a major hit in terms of increase in energy costs. And many factories are dependent on the use of diesel. So that has implications for cost of production. And if they are able to, they will pass on that cost to the consumers. If they are not able to pass on the cost, they will bear that additional cost, which means that their profit margins will be eroded. Then many of the trucks that are moving around the country, carrying raw materials, carrying finished goods, carrying food products, and so on around the country, almost 80% of them are running on diesel. So that means that transportation cost, which has been a major driver of food inflation, will further go up. Now we have aviation fuel. Only recently, there was a review in airfares. We are Lagos to Abuja, just 1 hour flight, is now costing a minimum of 50,000 one way. That was before oil even got to this level. Now that oil price is at over $100 per barrel, we expect that even aviation fuel will even go up higher. So we will not be surprised even if the airlines now begin to review the airfares again, because fuel is a major component of the operating cost. So that again is another major implication. Now when we talk of gas, Russia is the largest exporter of gas globally, and gas is a major energy source. It's a major fuel for energy. So if a country that is producing, the largest producer of gas, is having challenges as we currently have, there is likely to be a disruption to the gas market. And we need gas to fire the power stations. We need gas to support some of our industries. Forget that even we get this gas locally. All of these things are driven by international prices. So the price of gas here will be affected by whatever the international price is or the international market. So we are also likely to see another pressure. So the summary of all of this is that one of the things we have been worrying about in this economy is inflation. With heightened level of energy costs, we are likely to see even more inflation. Ideally, we should have been taking advantage of this, and you alluded to this in your intro. If you were producing at the level that you are supposed to be producing, but because of this rampant oil theft, vandalization of pipelines, and almost a state of complete lawlessness in the oil-producing areas. We can't take advantage of it. Many of the oil-producing companies have left. Practically all of them, those that are remaining, have vacated all their onshore facilities. They are now moving to deep offshore because the whole space is looking like a space that is not governed at all. Only recently, and I must commend Governor Wike for the efforts he's now taking, at least to bring some sanity into that. But a lot of damage has already been done.
Let me follow up.
So that is the dilemma that we face. Yeah, let me listen to you.
Oh, okay. Let me follow up. Still staying around high energy cost. Russia does about 10 million barrels per day, and we see that this is above $100, like you also alluded to. An OPEC meeting should hold anytime soon, I think today also. What do you think will be the discussions around that meeting? Do you think they will still increase output, or what do you think, looking at the ongoing crisis?
Well, I expect them to at least to increase output, because again, it's not a good thing we have to give a human face to whatever business we do. We cannot say that because people are reaping the benefits of high oil price, then the whole world should be suffering from high energy cost. So I expect a review of outputs in order to moderate this cost, because it's not in the long-term interest of everybody and of all countries, including OPEC countries, for energy costs to remain extremely high the way it is. Because globally, even in major oil producing countries, people are already feeling the heat of high energy costs. So I expect that they should review the outputs, increase it a little, so that we can have some moderation in price.
Let's now talk about effects on trade. We know about the Ajaokuta steel, which the Russians have a very important role to play in this, and there's been a lot of progress, because I also had a chat with the Minister of Mines and Steel, and he talked about this. Will all of this not affect all of these transactions, agreements before now? Then wheat is also something that we import from Russia, and that's what is used for our flours, for bread. Where do we stand in all of this?
Well, unfortunately, these are also not very good news, because no matter how we look at it, it will affect price or cost. Now, talking about the Ajaokuta and the Russia involvement, you know, the Ajaokuta plant was built by the Russians, and that's maybe over 40 years ago. Now, all efforts have been made to resuscitate the plant. At the end of the day, it was decided that we have to go back to Russian government, to the Russians. And some progress has been made, arrangement has been reached, a memorandum of understanding has been signed. So it is just at the point of execution. Then we had the onset of COVID. So it was the pandemic that actually slowed down the execution of that partnership or that project resuscitation. So we were on that when this now happened. So no matter how we look at it, it's going to have a setback on this partnership between Nigeria and Russia to resuscitate Ajaokuta. Because all over the world, Russia is now becoming increasingly almost like a pariah country, facing a lot of isolationist move globally, a lot of sanctions. There's a barrage or torrent of sanctions on Russia. So from a diplomatic point of view, I'm not sure this is also a good time to now be romancing Russia, because you want them to do something for us in Ajaokuta. So it's going to create a diplomatic dilemma, at least for now, until if by the grace of God, the conflict is de-escalated and things at least gradually normalize. But in the meantime, is going to cause a setback. And talking about wheat, between Russia and Ukraine, because of their weather, they account for about 30% of global wheat exports or production. So clearly, this situation has affected that component of global supply of wheat. And when you have that kind of shortfall, naturally, it will affect prices. And it is wheat that is used to produce flour. It's flour that is used to produce bread. And bread is something that, it's a staple food. Something that average Nigerians consume almost on a daily basis. Already in the last 1 year, we have seen an increase in price of bread to close to 50%. And that is part of the cries of the average Nigerian about chances of survival. Now we have this. So this is also likely to take some toll on that. But in order not to allow it to have too much of severe effect, we can review some of our fiscal policies and maybe tariffs and whatever taxes we're imposing on these wheats to ensure that the common people don't feel the heat that much. So that is the way it is. And again, as oil price increases, smuggling also increases, because relative prices changes rapidly. In Nigeria, the cost of petrol has been fixed at 165. In the neighboring countries, there is no subsidy. They are paying full market price. So now that oil has reached the $100 per barrel, their prices will have gone up significantly. So that means that it will now become even more cheaper to move product from Nigeria to this neighboring country. It will become more attractive to smuggle. So this level of smuggling is also likely to increase, because there's more money to be made now by the smugglers. Those are the subsidy merchants also will be making a lot of money from this crisis. So if you are not careful, already we are debating the 60 million liters per day, whether it is true or not true. There are supposed to be some investigation around that. Now that oil price has gone to $100, the smuggling is likely to increase. So the domestic consumption, in quotes, is likely to go up to maybe close to 70 million liters per day. And that is additional pressure on our own resources.
It's a beautiful way.
NMPC, because that is the policy of government.
Yeah. Interesting conversation always there with the CEO of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, economic think tank. Thank you so much, DG, for letting us understand more about this press release and, of course, the economic implications of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Thank you so much, and do enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.